New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Oh, good morning. I arrived here very quickly, it seems. Well, good morning. I'm Rev Victoria Bomberry, and I am so glad to be with you this morning. It seems like I have been away from you for a while, and I'm always glad to see everyone who is here. And I hope that if you're watching, that you will put comments into the chat or into the conversation so that we can really discuss what you have on your mind. And this is a discussion, and we try to include as much as possible from our listening audience. So this morning, we're doing a recap of the entire book. We're doing the general summary, which is chapter 24 of the Science of Mind textbook. And this is a very thick chapter. It's about 20 pages, a little bit more than 20 pages. And, it is condensing everything that has gone before into this one chapter. And, I think that our teachings, the main thing about our teachings are that they are practical. They're practical teachings that we can use every day. However, this chapter can seem a little bit abstract and a little bit heady as we're reading it. But I want to pull things out today so that we can really look at, what is the practical application? What was Ernest Holmes onto when he was putting all of this together? And of course, we know that Ernest Holmes is known as the great synthesizer because he tried to bring things together from all the faith traditions in the world, and I would put it more in terms of he was bringing not only science and spirituality together, he was also bringing East and West and Christianity, Western Christianity, together with Eastern thought. And if we look at, sometimes we think that we have the idea that Christianity originated in the West. Well, no, it is thought that comes from the East. It is Eastern thought. And, we can if we look at the continents and we see where Christianity originated, we would put that in Asia. We don't generally think about it as being Asia, but it is Asia. So we are bringing East and West together in religious science. And that's what the work of Ernest Holmes was, because as Christianity moved into the West, of course, all of the development that the West was doing came to fore. And, just as, any tradition, no matter what it is, it is impacted by the cultural and the historical things that area is experiencing. So what Ernest Holmes wanted to do, I believe, is, to try to get to the truth just the truth, the unvarnished truth, the truth that was beyond the accretions of history and culture and all those things that came with Western culture. So as he moved into this, we see that he brought everything together in a really powerful way that resonates with us, even today. And the textbook that we're using, was written back, almost 80 years ago, something like that. So it is, it is something that still resonates with us and that we can grow with and that we can add to as we deepen our understanding of spirituality and of science and of this ever expanding way of being in the world that we're seeing right now, from all over. We're seeing things being picked up by people throughout the world that we recognize as religious science, but are those seeds that come from other traditions. So we're seeing that come together in a very, very powerful way. So as we start this general summary, I'm going to start with a quote from page 390. And I'm going to change the language here because we're using the old gendered language, which was, in use when Ernest Holmes wrote this. So I'm just changing a few of the things. I'm changing, and you'll hear it. The conscious mind of a human being is self-knowing, self-assertive. It has volition, will, choice, and may accept or reject. It is the only part of a human being's mind which can think independently of conditions. And I think this is a really important passage to start with because we begin to think about what is conscious mind. And in this passage, a conscious mind is the mind of the one, is the one mind, because it is self-knowing, self-assertive. It has volition, will, choice, and may accept or reject. And the most important part here is that it thinks independently of conditions. And how do we think about this, of the mind that thinks independently of conditions? I was just chatting with some people recently, about some health conditions, right? And if, that I experience. And I was thinking, wow, I'm talking about this. And if I were to have a checklist, someone would probably say, oh, wow, you're really not very healthy at all. But, there's something about having this consciousness that is independent of conditions that allows one to transcend those discomfort or disruption in my life really doesn't disrupt my life that much. It's just a part of who I am in this moment. So those conditions do not limit me from enjoying life, participating in life, uh, doing the spiritual practice that I love, feeling a sense of connection to life, all of those things that bring joy, right? That bring that joy and that bliss in living. So I believe that when we have that connection to the one mind, that we are able to transcend those conditions that are a part of life. We come into life and there's all kinds of things that are happening. and we are constantly interacting with all kinds of things. The things that choices that other folks are making that impact us. So we have all of these things that are part of conditions, and we can supersede them. We can transcend them through our consciousness. The other thing that is very important here is choice. And sometimes I've heard people say that they don't have choices, and I've said that myself, that there's no choice here. And it took me many years to come to a point where I realized, oh, I always have a choice. And that choice could be as simple as accepting what is going on without reacting to it in a way that is detrimental to myself or to others. So that's the choice in those moments that I have felt that there is no choice. So we always have a choice. We always have choice in our life. And I want to, and just following up on this, I'm going to read from page 391, and it is the third paragraph. It is this divine self-knowingness in a human being which distinguishes him from all other creation. It belongs to a human being alone. It appears full-orbed in a human being alone. Humanity alone is able to consciously work out his own destiny, to determine what manner of life he shall lead. For it is written, God created humanity, but a little lower than the angels, and crowned humanity with glory and honor. And, sometimes, I, in taking a class with Dr. Goswami, this was one thing that he also stressed, and I kind of want to think about this a little bit. I think that um, sometimes we do set humanity apart from creation, from other parts of creation, from animal and plant life and that kind of thing. And I think that, or even things that we don't know about, life forms from other parts of the universe, or just different ways that consciousness may be expressing itself. And so I'm I'm feeling a little bit rebellious this morning, I guess. I think that when we think about ourselves, we do have something that's unique in us in terms of having this self-knowingness. And, I'm going to say that the self-knowingness, as Ernest Holmes is expressing it here, is divine self-knowingness. So we are able to apprehend the divinity, and we are able to apprehend that which is greater than ourselves. And, maybe it's because of my own background that I believe that that consciousness and that self-knowingness is present in all of creation, whether it is animal life, plant life, or things that we generally call inanimate. So this is a little bit different than what Ernest Holmes is saying, but I believe that what he is pointing out is our particularity in all of creation. because everything has its place. Everything has its own developmental pattern, right? In coming into this full perfection through evolution. So, although he's being very particular with human beings, I don't want to leave out the rest of creation, because we have a pattern of development that is probably a little bit uneven. We see that even in humanity, right? We we have different different kinds of development in individuals, and we have different kinds of development in different areas of the world, and mainly that is due to the way that things are distributed, and how we live today, with some countries having much more than others, and oftentimes the goods and resources are not equitably distributed. So what we were looking at today is this self-knowingness that that is ours as human beings, to know ourselves. And it is interesting that from ancient times, knowing oneself has been something that has been paramount for the sages. To know oneself, that was emblazoned on the temple at Delphi. Know yourself. And this does take a lifetime. We're born, and we have everything we need, right? And we are, in some sense, fully formed as as potential, as potential. And it takes a lifetime to come into that. Now, I'm going to just, what does that mean, practically? Well, this past week was well, the July 18th was the celebration of Nelson Mandela's birthday. And, he is someone that I have looked up to for so many years, just because of all that he was able to do in a very short time in ending apartheid. And, of course, a short time of, his lifetime, I'm talking about his lifetime, to end something that was such caused so much pain and suffering for so many people, and death, and just really was crippling to a whole group of people, and I would say all South Africans, it was crippling to. um, and one of the things that we notice with Nelson Mandela is his life trajectory was one of coming to know who he was. And one of the things that I love about him is that he didn't set himself apart from anyone. He said he was an ordinary person. He didn't claim any kind of special dispensation, or special intelligence, or any of that. He was born into a small community, and according to their customs, he was destined to be the chief of this group. But circumstances, and his own willingness to step into self-knowingness uh, thrust him into national leadership and global leadership. So, just looking at Nelson Mandela's trajectory, he went from, going into education, getting as much knowledge as he possibly could, because he saw that as a way to end suffering for people in South Africa. And when that was not having the results as quickly as his group thought was necessary, he became a revolutionary. And in his life as a revolutionary, um, he abandoned, just nonviolent methods to taking military operations against places that were military outposts. And, their philosophy was not to do harm to any humans, but to uh, knock out the means of oppressing people, those physical means. So he went through that, right? He went through that to a different place. He ended up in. There was a big roundup of all the leadership of the ANC, and he ended up going to prison for 27 years. And probably everyone is familiar with this. But in prison, he continued studying, and he deepened his own spirituality in prison. So the self-knowingness translated again into these means through study and meditation, and I'm sure prayer, to deepen who he truly was in life, in this life, and who he truly is as an ever evolving soul. So in this, he came back to the necessity of using nonviolence, the necessity of building relationships with people, the necessity of creating solidarity and unity. And that's where he put his focus. And let's look at those words: peace, prosperity, all of these things he was aligning his life with. And that is the self-knowingness, going into that place where all of those God qualities are. And we each have them. We each have every God quality that exists. It exists in us. And, he did alter the destiny of not only South Africa, but I think the entire world, because we had to deepen our thought about racism, sexism, and all of these things that were causing such deep suffering for people, poverty. And this is a life that we can look at as well lived, and lived in the necessity of knowing oneself and bringing one's whole self to whatever is at hand. And we can all do that in our own way. We can all do that in our own way. We don't have to be an exalted leader to have a huge impact on the world. It may be that taking care of our families, making sure that we are present for our families, that that is our calling. That might be our calling. Or it may be that we have a special talent or gift that we cultivate and develop, whatever it may be. Maybe something in creative arts. It may be something in knowing how things are constructed. Whatever it is, we can always allow spirit to work through us and that is our contribution in the world. And, we always have choice in this. And when we choose, we can choose to either accept or reject all this goodness that we have. And we do so at with our own free will, because we have that. We have free will. There's no dictator who is standing over us saying we have to do this or do that. We have free will in all of this. I'm going to go to this next part. And, this is where I think that this is a little bit easier to understand, I think, but I do think that sometimes we're a little bit heady, and maybe we do need to go over it a little bit more. And this is on page 393. The correct understanding that mind is its unformed state can be called forth into individual use is the key to all proper mental and spiritual work from a practical viewpoint. Okay. So, mind in its unformed state, what does that mean? That is, everything exists in mind. It's all there. And, mind is that place where the creativity resides, where that creative process happens. To know that we are surrounded by such a creativeness is not enough, however. We must use this knowledge for definite purposes if we expect to make conscious use of the law for personal self-expression. In this limitless medium, the potential of all our desires exists in an unformed state. This unformed is ready to take form, but having no intention of its own, because it is not self-knowing. Form must be imposed upon. Form is imposed upon it by self-knowing mind of God and of humanity. Humanity in the little world, God in the great world. So, as above, so below. We could put it that simply. That we do have that ability, that creative ability, just as the divine does. The creative force that put all of this in motion. All of life. And we can just imagine that, right? We can imagine that happening either through the Big Bang. I always imagine like a big curtain, waving and kind of coming against another curtain, and this big bang happens and it resonates, to infinity. And, it's kind of, I like that image because there's something, I think there's something, very flowing about that image, that creativity is this outward energy, and it has that unformed, nothing was there, and things started to coalesce because of a thought, a thought of beauty, yes, a thought of joy, a thought of just abundance, right? Everything that we can see with our eyes as we look out into the sky and all around us came into being because of this one thought, this impulse of creation, and the continuation of calling into being all of the things that we can see around us. And our own creativity. Sometimes I'm thinking about things that are unformed. Just thinking about something just really simple. Like a sweater. What does it take to make a wool sweater? Okay, it takes a sheep or whatever kind of wool you're using. You might be have rabbits, or you might be raising goats or whatever. But it does take, and I think I figured this out a few months ago, that it would take. I, I think I said 3 sheep to clothe a family. So like a family of 4, or family of 6, it would take 3 sheep. And so what goes into that creation, right? We have to raise the sheep. We have to make sure that they're fed and taken care of, have water, that they're healthy, that their wool grows beautifully, and then we have to shear them. We have to take the wool and wash it. We have to do every single process to come into the place where we begin to make a sweater or whatever we're going to make for our family. And, the process, we have in mind that sweater, and we go through this entire creative process from the unformed to the formed in the creation of this material item. And, I think it's wonderful. I really do. I think that that is the creative process in work in a very practical way. And it is divine. It is divine to think that human beings were able to think about how to clothe themselves in this very complicated process and a complicated learning. And we probably mimicked the what we saw around us, the weaving of spiders, the maybe even looking at the way that birds weave their nests, you know, how creation fits together is just magnificent and wonderful. So we impose that form on the unformed. We're able to do that. And we're able to do that in ways that I don't understand now, with all the technology that we have, and all of the things that we're able to do in terms of things that are more complicated, more complicated, and require more special knowledge to complete. Another thing that we think about too is, and I think this is something that is important for us. And this is, again, is on page 393. No form is permanent. All forms return to formless. The formless is eternal. All form is temporary. There is an eternal play of life upon itself. This is necessary in order that mind may be expressed. Humanity is an expression of original mind, and it can call temporary forms into being if it wills to. Indeed, humanity cannot stop doing this, and thereby hangs the tale of good and evil. So no form is permanent. So everything, that's the idea, that Buddhists express, that of impermanence. Things come into being and things go out of being. But nothing is lost in that. And that's something that we believe in religious science. Nothing at all is lost. And, I'm looking here in the chat, and Wayne, hello, Wayne, says pure love. So pure love. And that's true. Pure love is what brings all this into being. And if we think about that simple example that I gave you of making a sweater for a member of the family from the beginning to the next part, to the end, right? All of that is brought together by love. That is love. And we know that these forms come into being, our bodies come into being, and they're not permanent. They're not permanent. This vessel is not permanent. But what is permanent is that part of me that goes on, the soul that continues. Nothing is lost. That energy is not lost. That those impressions of being are not lost. They go on in this ever upward spiral of evolution of the soul. And you know what's so amazing? I love this next piece. This is on page 395. The cosmic engine is started, but humanity guides it in its own life. It goes for him in the direction in which it is driven. This driving is not by force, but by agreement, unification, and acquiescence. We must believe. On this hangs all the law and the prophets. Heaven and hell are tied up in humanity's belief. It is the law of humanity's life. So what does this mean? The cosmic engine is started, with that thought. I talked about the Big Bang, and that's one way that we can look at it. We can see that image of those curtains coming together and this huge bang starting. That's a cosmic engine. And because of law and an intention, a word that is spoken, all that we see in this material world is brought into being, including humanity, right? And we, in turn, have the ability to work in agreement with the natural laws, and we can unify with God, and we can acquiesce, and I think that's a different word for surrender, to the good, right? Everything that was made, everything that has been made and is still being created is brought into existence through love. And because of this, if we decide, we have the choice to align with the goodness, and accept that good that is all around us, then we are participating in a way that is bringing order to our little world here, the earth, right? We're bringing order and justice, equality, solidarity, just all of those good things. We're bringing that into the world. And if we decide that we're going to be very rebellious against that and just act uh, for our own purposes, whatever they might be, in a selfish manner, in a way that is destructive to others or destructive to our planet, then we are not in alignment with the good, and we get the old. We fall into that duality of good and evil, right? Rather than realizing that God is good, and God is good all the time. And let me just read this one part here on the next page, 396. And we are we have a few more minutes, and we talk about, we're going to talk about love. We've talked about love, and now we're going to talk about law. So when we have a thought, and if we put a thought into mind, well, we're going to get into the creative medium of mind. We are going to see the outcome of that. And let me read this. The laws of force in nature to be used and brought under conscious control of the spirit of humanity, which is its conscious mind. Humanity's conscious mind is the consciousness of God in him. And we can't say that too much. Our conscious mind is the conscious mind of God in us. When we're asleep, right, we are not experiencing the conscious mind. And asleep, I mean asleep to God, not awake in God, but asleep. And we're not accessing God, we're not aligning with God. We are not able to, we're not conscious. We're just not in that consciousness of God. We are not awakening to our own self-knowingness. And that is where we run into the problems I stated before when we go toward destruction and harming others in our planet, everything that exists, creation. Because I do believe what we do here has an impact on the rest of the cosmos. You know, sometimes we may think we're just a little speck in this enormous cosmos in which we reside. But I don't believe that. I believe that what we do matters, that we do have an impact on the entirety of creation, not just this planet, but the entirety of creation. So that that sounds kind of heavy, right? That we do have the responsibility not only for ourselves, not only for the things around us, but we have the responsibility for our planet, and we also have the responsibility for the cosmos. And instead of it feeling heavy, I think that it could feel like, oh my gosh, that is awe-inspiring. That what I choose to do today makes a difference far, to the farthest reaches of the universe and to all of creation. I have that choice. My goodness, how powerful are we? We have that power. And to bring it down again, to just basic things like the choices that we make in terms of, let's use Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, we've probably all seen the movie where he goes to this soccer player and builds a relationship with him, and says, listen, it's really important that we all come together. This is a game where we all can just be on the same page and know that, South Africa is united. And by making that choice to reach out to this soccer player who had had prejudice and, was conditioned to hate and was conditioned to, have these different, thoughts about Black people, to have and colored people, meaning mixed race people, and people who were from India, anyone who was non-white. Nelson Mandela did the choice to go and talk to him, and to really focus on unity and solidarity. And it had a great impact on all of us. On all of us. We heard the story, right? We heard the story and it had an impact. So we need those stories. We do. We need to understand that what we do has consequences. And I think this is really interesting to me too, because I am such a daydreamer. Oh my goodness, I am such a daydreamer. We should be careful to distinguish daydreaming and wistful wishing from really dynamic and creative treatment. When we treat, we do not wish, we know. We do not dream, we state. We do not hope, we accept. We do not pray, we announce. We do not expect something is going to happen. We believe that it has already happened. And this is about treatment, and I believe that, yes, when we treat, we are focusing all of our consciousness in this one area. But, it is also a way of living, a way of life to be in this state of prayer. He says we don't pray, but, he's distinguishing beseeching and begging from treatment. But that unification with God, that knowingness, that self-knowingness, that, with God, all things are possible, right? Anything that we can imagine is possible because it has already been a thought in the mind of God, because we're all in the same consciousness, right? So I'm a big daydreamer. And if I just stay in that dream, right, and I'm not taking any action, I'm not knowing that that is the truth that's the reality, that's the truth, then nothing will happen. We have to know, we have to state what it is that we know, and we have to accept. And I think acceptance is probably the most difficult for many of us, that we accept this as the truth. That when we say that we want divine justice, that we know that there is divine justice. That is what we know to be the truth. And we don't get caught up in what the appearances are. Yes, we have to do the work to get to divine justice. That's our work here on earth, right? To move toward divine justice, or whatever that quality is that we want to focus on. Wholeness, prosperity, abundance, right? All of that is within our power. Now, this is a very, very dense chapter in a lot of ways, but these truths are really not that difficult to understand. What we know in consciousness is God. When we're awake, we know God. And isn't that just the you know and and I'm noticing that I have been not transmitting very clearly here. I've been freezing a little bit. So I'm going to repeat that. You over here. Ah, the hands and feet on earth. So this week, as we move into August, let's just keep in mind that we are here to shine the light. We are here to be those emissaries of God and emissaries of light, and that we are just overflowing with love in everything that we do. So have a wonderful week, and I'm so happy to be here and so happy to know you. And so it is.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.